Let's go across. Let's go overseas, y'all. Let's go overseas. Spend 10 minutes talking about this because this actually hit my algorithm. This hit my Instagram algorithm because I like to go to the different travel pages and stuff like that and see what's happening out in these streets. Bush is still definitely worse. I'm gonna say Bush is worse. I know y'all asking me which one is worse. JPZ. I think that Bush was worse. I don't care what nobody say. But I like to go and I like to evaluate. And basically, what I like to do in my spare time is we like to sit here and say, well, where's the next place that we're going to go, whether it's in the United States or overseas? And one of the places that was on my list was Barcelona. Barcelona, Spain. Paris was also on my list. I see they basically burning Paris down because they didn't like the election. Barcelona was one of the places that was on my list, absolutely. And so when this hit my algorithm, I was absolutely destroyed. I was distraught. I said, oh, what's happening over in Barcelona? A lot of y'all may not be familiar with what's happening overseas. Check it out.
A water fight on the streets of Barcelona. Some locals spraying tourists with water guns as they ate at popular restaurants, sending visitors fleeing from their tables. Thousands of protesters walking through the city over the weekend, chanting "Tourists go home" and carrying signs with anti-tourist slogans.
Restoration and hotels is the group that makes really big money, but all the people are in a very poor situation and they don't have enough money to live. That's a problem.
Barcelona is one of the top tourist destinations in the world, home to iconic sites like La Sagrada Familia.
I couldn't wait to go to Barcelona and see all of these places. I couldn't wait to go to Barcelona. Don't you know that tourism is a huge part of their economy? And they're mad. They're mad because more people are going to visit these locations and spend money inside of their city. And so the large issue amongst the people, and this is what they're saying, they'll throw their own economy away in order to actually stand on whatever they stand on. And I actually disagree with it, but neither here nor there. They're basically going and they're throwing water on and shooting them with water guns and going over to these places and bothering the tourists. And they telling them to go home. They say, listen, we don't want you here. We don't want your money. We don't want your dollars. We don't want you to come over here and to be messing up what we think makes the most sense for us. Now, at the core of this issue is housing. They're saying that because tourists are there, what's happening is it's reducing the amount of housing because of temporary housing that's allocated for people that then travel to the country. So, for example, if you turn the home that you would then rent or you would usually rent to somebody else, but then it becomes a short-term rental such as an Airbnb, then they're saying the same thing that they're saying over in New York City, because if you remember, New York City actually reduced what was happening or the ability for people to be able to rent out their Airbnbs inside of the city. So they basically killed an economy within the city or the amount of money that people were able to make within the city by saying that, nope, most people can't have Airbnbs in the city largely. And so now you have to allocate that towards long-term housing. You got to rent it out to people that you don't want to rent it out to because you cannot do short-term rentals through Airbnb. If you do, we're going to find you. So it's no longer a capitalistic society. It's no longer ability to be able to do what you want to do with your own property. Now they're putting restrictions and the people are protesting and saying that we don't even want y'all over here because y'all taking up space that we want to use for our own people. Even though our economy is largely dependent on tourism also.
And Park Güell, in addition to beautiful beaches. Officials reporting more than 33 million people from all over the world visited the city in the first 5 months of 2024 alone. Tourism bringing in a whopping 9.6 billion euro in 2023, according to the Tourism Observatory of Barcelona. But some locals say mass tourism is not only overwhelming the city, but also making the cost of living unaffordable to its residents.
I would stress the declining quality of life for local residents, and that would include the increasing cost of housing, the noise, the litter, the displacement of long-term residents, and the relentless construction.
Rent in Barcelona has risen nearly 70% in just the last decade, according to Mayor Jaume Colboni. In June, the mayor announcing a plan to stop renewing permits for rentals used by foreign visitors by 2028 after saying a boom in short-term rentals is to blame. The city assuring the move would make 10,000 units available to locals in 4 years.
The last years, the city has turned completely for tourists, and what we want is a city for citizens and not in service of tourists.
A delay.
And it's so difficult to deal with it because you got a dude that's walking up on you with a water gun. You don't know if he got bleach in there. You don't know if he got water in there. I don't care what's in there. That's an assault. You can't really do anything because you're in a completely different country and you don't even know what the rules are, right? And so now you got people and they sitting at these restaurants and they're dining. They don't know whether or not these people are in hotel rooms. They don't know what's going on. But you sitting there and you with your little girlfriend and you trying to show her a good time so that you can take her back to the room and bust her down. And then you got these people running up on you with water guns and they basically spraying you and they saying, hey, fam, we don't want your dollars. We don't want your money. Go home. You ain't got to tell me twice. You ain't never got to tell me twice. Look, I was looking at, what's his name? iShowSpeed. I've never seen more people on the live stream than that in my life. I've never seen 275,000 people watching on YouTube for one person. That was insane. I said that this person is truly the GOAT of what they do. I mean, one of the clips that I seen was the guy didn't know who he was, and he was asking how much it costs to actually buy a car that the man had for sale. And the man threw some wild number out there or whatever, and he was like, okay. Well, can you tell me more about the vehicle or whatever, so on and so forth? And the man looked him up and down and was basically like, this conversation is over. He had already evaluated whether or not he felt like the guy could afford it by just looking at him. And so the guy was asking him more questions like, listen, is there anything that you could tell me about it? How much did you pay for the car? How long did you own it? Or whatever like that, right? And the guy was basically just pawning him off. He had the car for sale, but he didn't want to talk to him because he didn't think that he could afford it. And so eventually iShowSpeed just walked away, but he was offended. He was bothered by it. He's not as old, and so he don't really understand the game as much as we do as far as being able to maintain your composure and not even have that conversation anymore anyway. But whenever it is that I see somebody don't want my money, I'm not going to beg you to take my money. Oh, I don't think that you can afford this car. And so black people, black culture largely, they'll go in and say, you don't think that I can afford it? I'll buy 10 of them. You ain't got to beg me to not take your money. What do you mean? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. I'm with it. I'm going to walk away. If you don't want my money, I don't want to give it to you. I'm not going to beg you to take my bread. That sounds stupid.
Emma for a welcoming city to shift focus and take care of its own.
Guad Venegas joins us tonight from the Telemundo Center in Miami. So
Telemundo.
People visiting Barcelona or planning to visit Barcelona in the months ahead, could they expect to see more of these protests and possibly be hit by these water guns?
I would not be over.
Well, Tom, for the people that were at those establishments, it was at the wrong place at the wrong time, right? I mean, there's a lot of visitors in Barcelona. It's just unfortunate that they were right there when the protesters came. But this is a sign of that anti-tourism sentiment in Barcelona, which we expect to continue.
All over the world.
It's not only the protests. There's also signs around the city that are asking tourists to go home. Now, the city has already approved increasing the tourist tax from 3.25 euro to 4 euro. That's a small increase. But again, it's another sign that Barcelona wants to limit the people that are coming into the city. And in the future, what we can expect is Barcelona to become a much more expensive destination for the tourists that do decide to go. And things are going to change, Tom.
So if you decide to go over to Barcelona, they just going to take more of your money. They're going to tax you. That's basically what they're saying. It's insane, man.
Let's talk about Spain. The economy has been growing faster than most of its neighbours recently, and that's in great part due to its tourism industry, which contributes around 13% of GDP growth and once again is breaking records. But not everyone is happy about the growth of tourism in Spain, which is now seeing a backlash in many parts of the country. Guy Hedgecoe reports from Malaga.
For more than half a century, a tourism model based on sun and sand has been a driving force for the Spanish economy. And today, it's a main reason why the country's GDP is growing faster than almost all its European neighbours. This year, nearly 100 million foreign visitors are expected, a new record.
We have been responsible in the last years of the most important percentage of growth of our economy. In 2023, we were responsible of 80% of the whole GDP growth of Spain, because other sectors were not growing, neither at the speed nor at the level of the tourism.
I agree with you,
But
Yakar.
Spain's relation.
A lot of times we go over into these countries, and it's so funny because I look at this whole passport movement. And one thing that we don't consider is the fact that the locals ain't really rocking with you. They will take your money. They will, embrace the fact that you're going to go over there and pay for some box or spend some money or whatever like that. But most of the locals, they don't truly rock with you because you're not really trying to embrace the culture in the same way that we don't like the fact that a lot of immigrants come over into your neighborhood and then change the culture of what you got going on, or they bring their own culture with it and they say, oh, no, this ain't a melting pot. This is what we do. And so you're not trying to necessarily move according to our beat. You're just doing what you want to do when you want to do it. They don't rock with y'all like that in a lot of these countries. And so one of the reasons that they don't rock with y'all is because you go over there and you say, well, it's cheaper and the cost of living is cheaper over here. The same thing that Californians is doing to Texans is the same thing that Americans is doing to Mexico City. The same thing that we're doing to the Dominican Republic. It's the same thing that we're doing over there to Thailand. It's the same thing. And so the tourist is like, we don't really love y'all. We're not rocking with y'all. You don't understand the language, so you can't necessarily understand it. But the same thing that's happening in Barcelona is happening all across the world. If their costs go up, but they don't benefit as a result of you being there, they're going to say, get up out of here. We don't rock with you.
Relationship with tourism seems to be at a tipping point. A backlash has started as the country counts the cost of an industry which has been so lucrative. Popular holiday destinations like the Canary Islands and the Balearics have seen protests by local people, upset at the impact tourism is having on their home environment. The southern city of Malaga staged a similar demonstration. Much of the anger is caused by the high number of apartments used as short-term tourist accommodation. In Malaga, nearly a third of all properties are in this category.
The city, it's been developed in a way that the prices are going so high that now people who work and live here cannot really afford an apartment. You feel like you are in a theme park, that everything is not really for living there.
This discontent has triggered discussion of possible ways of controlling arrivals or even rethinking Spain's tourism model.
If we want to really talk about sustainable tourism or a lower number of tourists, we should discuss about limits to the activity and higher restrictions and more regulation of the sector, which until now has been like kind of free to act. But right now we need to start putting some limits.
Malaga is one of several Spanish cities which are planning on introducing restrictions on the granting of licenses for short.
Somebody said, be safe, just go to Hawaii. I think that I'm going to switch that up and go to Hawaii this year too. I'm going to look that up in a minute. Let me see something. Let me make a phone call. I think I'm going to switch it up too. 100% I think I'm going to switch it up. Make a decision right here.
Hello.
What up? You busy? I'm on a live stream.
No, what's up?
Hey, you know how we go to South Florida, Miami in the wintertime in order to, for the holidays and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Should we go to Hawaii this year? Yep. You ain't even think about it. Why you ain't think about it? You love Miami in the wintertime.
I do, but I love Hawaii too.
All right. We'll figure it out. All right, bet.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right. Hawaii actually has better weather than Miami in the wintertime, or, slightly better weather. But I think that we'll do that. Let me go ahead.